What's going on, friends? Welcome to Forward Progress, live here on the Forward Progress YouTube channel, part of the Hammer Betting Network and powered by Pinnacle Sportsbook. I'm producer Jason. You can catch me here every Thursday to talk in-depth player props with Hitman, preview the Thursday night football matchup, and talk a little bit about Survivor pool picks. We'll also be joined alongside with Eric Eager here. But before we bring our guests on for today, two things we have to get to. Actually, three things this week. First and foremost, of course, hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button, guys. We got tons of great content coming towards you throughout the football season. And if you like the show so far, and if you've been tuning in every single week and you haven't subscribed yet, what the heck are you doing? Just hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out, helps us grow, and it helps us show that you guys are supporting the show. And it lets the YouTube algorithm know, hey, other people might like this too. So we will accept any like or subscribe, and we appreciate all likes and subscribes here. Another thing I want to mention, guys, is the live watch-alongs that we usually do on the Hammer HQ. They're now being moved here. So the Forward Progress YouTube channel is going to be hosting the live watch-alongs with Rob Pizzola from here on out. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, guys, and you were watching those Hammer HQ live watch-alongs, make sure you subscribe to the Forward Progress YouTube channel, because that's where we will be doing them throughout the rest of the season. So make sure you're subscribed here. If you like football stuff, this is the place to be. And then last thing, of course, none of this would be possible without our sponsors over at Pinnacle. Pinnacle is the world's sharpest sportsbook and available to bettors in Ontario's, and has been the sharpest sportsbook for the last 25 years. We love to preach line shopping on this channel, and with everyday competitive odds, Pinnacle should be one of your available outs. If you're looking to sign up and support the show, make sure you use code HAMMER when signing up. That's code HAMMER when signing up to Pinnacle, your trusted sportsbook for 25 years. Bet smart, bet Pinnacle. Must be 19 plus in Ontario. Please play responsibly, and not available in the U.S. Guys, today I am joined first and foremost by the one, the only, Eric Eager. Eric, how's it going? Are you excited for this privilege of a Thursday night football game?
Yeah, I like the Juju Smith-Schuster jersey, Chiefs Super Bowl legend, drawing the holding penalty from James Bradbury. Long gone are the days of like Steve McNair and Ben Roethlisberger, but we still get a football game tonight, which we'll be hankering for come March.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you working in Steve McNair there. A little inside joke for the fellow Nails, who, if you know, is all I'll say. So let's just get right into the game here. The biggest thing for me, I wanted to lead off with Will Levis, but right as we got on, we kind of saw a movement towards the Pittsburgh Steelers here. The Pittsburgh Steelers are around like -2.5, -115, -118-ish on Pinnacle. We moved through that 2.5, or sitting at a -3, -101 over at Pinnacle here. Are you surprised by this move at all? Did you kind of expect this? What was your read early in the week on this game, and did you expect this to kind of go through the 3?
No, I make it 2.5. I think Levis offers some variance where we're not quite sure if he's going to be good or not, and that's something that I think is valuable, to the market, in the sense that, like, I think the variance is going to be a little bit different on this game that we're used to. Pickett was hurt last Sunday. So maybe people were waiting on, the injury reports, not the injury reports, because we've had that all week, but some sort of news as to whether how much he's going to be limited. And, this would suggest that he's not going to be too limited, other than his normal natural limitations of being a below average quarterback.
Yeah. And I was going to, again, talk Will Levis with you, but since you brought up the quarterbacks here for the Pittsburgh Steelers, the market right now, it looks like we kind of didn't really know it at Sunday night. The market's opened up at around the -2.5 here. And you mentioned that it went through the 3. It might be because people are believing in Kenny Pickett, but it feels like the market doesn't really care about Kenny Pickett or Mitch Trubisky. They believe that they're the same thing. Do you kind of agree with that sentiment? It seems like you do. And do you think that maybe with a better play caller, Pickett would kind of be valued higher in market than Mitch Trubisky? But, like, I guess in this scenario right here, they're kind of the same.
Yeah, a lot of smart people I know, like obviously like Rob, for example, like was very high on Pickett coming into the year. And I think we've all had to like change our tune as it's been, the Steelers have still won, right? They're 5-3, but it has not, or 4-3. They have not been terribly impressive on offense. So, that's been a real troublesome thing. I think with a better coordinator, you can certainly make a rookie quarterback look, or rookie deal quarterback look better, especially when you have Deontay Johnson, we have George Pickens, 2 young, highly drafted tight ends, Darnell Washington and Pat Freiermuth, missed time. so far. So there have been some impediments, but I think a lot of it is Matt Canada and sort of like the limitations he puts on that offense naturally.
Let's talk a bit about Matt Canada here, because like how long is the leash? He's now been in the organization since 2021. I mean, the Steelers have progressively year over year just consistently been in that bottom third in offensive EPA per play, even though like you mentioned, having good weapons like George Pickens, like Deontay Johnson. And I mean, I just don't. I know they said that they're not going to fire Pickett in the middle of the season, but you're 4-3 right now. You're winning in spite of having like one of the worst offensive EPA per plays of any team in the NFL here. Do you foresee a scenario where they could move off of Matt Pickett this year, or do you believe them when they say they're not going to fire Matt Canada here in the middle of the season?
I believe them. I mean, this isn't a team that really does that. They stuck with Randy Fiechner for a while, who was the OC back when Roethlisberger at the end there. Unless guys get promoted, usually Mike Tomlin is pretty loyal to them. So I don't see it happening. And frankly, like it's going to be hard if they keep winning, right? Like we have seen offensive coordinators. Cam Cameron lost his job in 2012, and was it Jim Caldwell came in for the Ravens and won the Super Bowl that year. We have seen teams that are winning but struggling offensively do make that move. But I just don't see the Steelers. I don't necessarily believe it's in their DNA.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense there. Let's flip over to the other side of the ball here and kind of talk about what everyone's kind of thinking about right now. Like, who is Will Levis, right? So we saw him last week. We saw him, and he's going to be under center tonight for the Tennessee Titans here. Looking at the box score, 238 passing yards, 4 TDs. Sounds like a good game. You look at the highlight reel, some of those passes, they look pretty good, that deep ball. But then you dig deeper. You see a 36% success rate. You look at the film, you see him missing throws, putting the ball behind players, not really like understanding where the rush is coming from the D here. So, I mean, it's only his first start, so we're not going to like criticize the guy, right? But in his second start here, how do you see Will Levis faring against the blitz heavy D of the Pittsburgh Steelers? What is your expectation for him tonight? And then also, like, going back to the 2023 drafts, tell us a little bit about the player Will Levis and like how you kind of you saw him as a prospect coming into the NFL.
Yeah, this feels, I mean, when it's funny, I actually have to look up this stat here like real quick, but like in Marcus Mariota's first start to give Tennessee Titans, this was a situation where in his first start, they went to Tampa Bay and he played against Jameis Winston. But in Marcus Mariota's first start, he was 13 of 15 for 209 and 4 touchdowns, a perfect 158.3 rating. And was that a harbinger of things to come? He had, basically the rest of the season, 19 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, which wasn't, so bad. But that team, they didn't win a game for 2 months after that initial drubbing of Tampa Bay in his first start. So you do have to be careful. I think a lot of people who liked Levis are now like sort of like telling everybody eat crow. And I just don't think that's warranted. Coming out, he was a guy who I think, you like that arm. He had that talent. You saw him. It's weird. You saw him decline. Second to last year at Kentucky was better than the last year at Kentucky. So that's something that has happened before to quarterbacks who have been successful in the NFL. People like Justin Herbert, people like Brock Purdy. Some of those guys have peaked at different times during their career, as opposed to just getting better every year, like Mahomes did, for example. So yeah, I mean, I think people were rightly skeptical of him just because of accuracy issues. But as we saw on Sunday, he does have the arm talent that if people are open, they can put it together. I don't think tonight against the Steelers, he's going to have quite as much success as he had the other day. But I also wouldn't be surprised if he did, just given the variance associated with young quarterbacks and what they're capable of. And our general, and I'm talking about the community here, our general lack of understanding of the position, especially as it pertains to projecting players from college to pro.
Yeah, that's such a hard thing to do, and I've always wondered how you guys are as you model out these games, like how you even come to that conclusion. Or like for me, I just don't even want anything to do with this game just because we don't really know who or what Will Levis is just yet. So you mentioned that big arm from Will Levis, and I'm curious who you think in this Titans passing game would benefit the most from the turn to Will Levis from Ryan Tannehill here. I mean, we saw DeAndre Hopkins go deep a couple times, but like I've noticed like throughout the year, he's really struggled to create separation. On one of the touchdowns he got, he literally threw the guy. It should have been like an OPI, but it wasn't. So like, Do you think like DeAndre Hopkins benefits the most here? Do you think Westbrook-Ikini, who can kind of create a little bit more separation, who has a little bit more speed in his game, might be able to benefit more from Will Levis here? Which wide receivers or even tight end on this team do you think has the biggest benefit of moving to Will Levis here?
I do think it is Westbrook-Ikina just because of, the role he played with, in this offense for the past few years. Hopkins being like son of a downfield guy the last game was kind of surprising given kind of his move towards being more of a possession receiver over the past few years. But I do think you got to think about more of the speedier guys. You have to think more of the low catch rate, high ADOT guys that I think really will thrive, in this situation.
Do you think Treylon Burks could be one of those guys? I know he's kind of been struggling through injury throughout the season, but I don't really know how much he's going to play tonight, but.
Yeah, he could. He's just, to me, like Burks has just been a guy that hasn't been able to get going at the NFL level, and especially down the football field. So I'm skeptical that he's capable of doing that much right now with Will Levis there, especially considering, Hopkins emerging in one way was really surprising, but another way, he's a guy that's played with some bad quarterbacks. You look at Hopkins' career, it's like it's Savage, it's Osweiler, it's Keenum, it's and even at the Cardinals, he had to play with like the Strebler guy, and he had to he had to play with Strebler for a little bit. He had to play with I'm trying to remember who they started last year in that Christmas game where they almost beat Tom Brady, but like. Hopkins has played with lots of bad quarterbacks in the NFL, and so there was a decent amount of adjustment there. Burks is like, he probably needs a great quarterback to unlock his potential, and I don't think Levis is that right now.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Let's move off the Titans passing game here. Let's talk a little bit about their run game. I mentioned earlier that the Pittsburgh Steelers love to blitz, and I mean, with the Titans, like you'd think that. With a rookie quarterback in here, you'd be running the football a lot more to kind of alleviate the pressure off the blitz here. The biggest thing, though, note right here for the Steelers D is that we have Cam Hayward coming back, who I think is a massive addition to this team, who's really struggled against the run all year. The Steelers are bottom 6 in EPA per rush against the rush this season. How do you think the Titans running backs will fare against this kind of new look Steelers D with Cam Hayward in the game here? Are you like, is this going to be like how do you see this playing out here?
Yeah, I think you're probably going to see more from the change of pace back Spears than you will from Henry. Just not more, but like more efficiency. And that's kind of been the way at times it has gone this year. But yeah, it is good to get Hayward back. Hayward also is a very good pass rusher, which should help them, in that realm as well. But yeah, when you look at EPA per rush allowed, the Steelers are actually, still giving up negative, sort of in that regard, but it's just a little bit, the league, for example, is down in terms of rushing. So, this could be a situation where they're, not one of the league's best teams there. They get even better. And, Tennessee has a really hard time running the ball at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I'm shocked you said that thing about Tajay Spears there, but I guess do you think the splits for Derrick Henry here really have been like a 60-40, 60 or 70-30 here. Do you kind of see Spears being worked in the passing game and running game, or you just think he's just going to be on the field more than we would expect here for the Titans?
Well, I just think he has the ability to kind of make the big play more than Henry does now, which is sort of weird. I think Henry still has the ability to break off the big one, but it's so much more abbreviated now than it has been in the past.
Okay, fair enough here. Let's get to our best bets of the night here, Eric. You got 2 for us. Why don't you start off with the first one? The first one coming from DeAndre Hopkins. What are you looking for here?
I just like him under his receiving yardage total. I think that it's a little bit inflated from the previous week. So let me look at sort of where it would be in market right now. After I
54.5 is what
54.5. Yeah. So I would just take I would take that under. It's there are some places where it's 55.5, but for the most part, 54.5 widely available. To me, that's a good play.
Yeah, 54.5. You can find a -110. There's a couple like plus 115s at the 53.5 there, but let's just go with transparency's sake. We're going to go with the 54.5 under receiving yards for DeAndre Hopkins, full unit there, locking that in at -110. And reminder, you can find all of our picks tracked right here. Just search on BetStamp /Progress HQ at forward spelled FWD Progress HQ, and you can find all our picks tracked there. We're tracking them live as we do the show. Eric, you got one more for us here. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I like in this. I kind of bungled this the last time we talked about this prop when we had was it New Orleans versus Jacksonville. Yeah. So I'm going to be very.
Still got it.
We still got it. I'm going to be very. So tackles plus assists. I like Azeez El-Shaair over 9.5. The price varies. There's a minus 112 out there, but there's some places where it's a bit more favored than that. When I look at his stats, right? So you look at he by the way, he was a very good player for the Niners, kind of underrated. He was, behind Fred Warner as well as I'm trying to remember the other guy, Dre Greenlaw. And so he was only getting like the third linebacker snaps, which is really hard, but he always flashed in those situations. So it was a really good signing by the Titans. But when you look at his stats, it's 6 tackles, 8 tackles, 9 tackles, 9 tackles. And then the last 3 weeks, it's been 15, 15, and 11. The 11 against Atlanta last week, an offense, very similar to what we might see tonight against the Steelers. Baltimore and Indianapolis is previous to. So anytime they've played a team with kind of like a running game kind of identity, which is, I think, what Pittsburgh wants to be at least, El-Shaair has really racked up the tackles. So that would be the play that I would make tonight.
All right, I'm going to lock that in at minus 130 just because the minus 112 are all from the same feed here. So just for transparency, we're going to get the minus 130 here over 9.5. Azeez El-Shaair tackles plus assist, minus 130. Locking that in for a full unit here. Let's move off the Thursday night football game here quickly. Let's talk quickly about Survivor. We survived last week, even though we lost 2 weeks ago. But hey, we're still in it. We're still kicking. We took Baltimore. I mean, we didn't get the cover, but it's all right. Survivor, not cover, right? So, anyways, this week, who are you looking for Survivor this week? We got the New Orleans Saints. They're up against Chicago, -9. Cleveland against Arizona. Cleveland sitting at a 7.5 right now. Those seem to be the 2 popular picks. Are you looking at those 2 in particular? Or would you kind of like move off those 2 popular picks and look to fade them?
So it's hard to do Cleveland because the quarterback situation's unknown. Yeah. The defense has kind of regressed the last few weeks. That being said, Arizona. And there's also uncertainty about who Arizona is going to play because they just traded Josh Dobbs. I think that means they're going to start Clayton Tune and kind of continue to lose here, kind of try to get some distance between them and the other teams that are vying for the number 1 pick. So that one is one that, you have to proceed with caution. New Orleans makes a lot of sense to me. Tyson Bagent wasn't good the other day. But I don't like New Orleans generally as far as, their prospects this year. But this is probably the one spot where you can take them and feel somewhat confident that you're going to get home.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I mean, throughout the season, when are you ever really going to take this team again? Just looking at their schedule, they're maybe week 14, Carolina -7.5, but who knows? You might not be sticking around for that long. Just one question for you. Would you look at all at the Atlanta Falcons against the Minnesota Vikings here? Atlanta right now -4.5. I think we saw some 5.5 in market here, but I mean, it's not really a popular pick. You probably never pick the Falcons, right? Is this like a good kind of spot to go contrarian here, or is it almost too late in the game to do this?
So I don't know because Carolina, they get to play Carolina again, on the road, granted. So that might not be the best. They get Tampa Bay at home, which I think by season's end, Tampa Bay is going to be, fairly weak. So that I wouldn't waste it on Atlanta here. Again, a lot of unknowns. Like we don't know. Jaron Hall could come out and play really well. This Vikings team, are 3-0 without Justin Jefferson. So, Kevin O'Connell is doing a really good job. The Viking, I think the coaching edge that the Vikings have over the Falcons is pretty big. And so it would be tough for me to get there, even though you're right. I mean, it is probably the one good time where you could take Atlanta. I just think like if it were to ever go busto on somebody, you would look back at it and be like, look, like there was just a lot of reasons not to take this game. So I just want to be, kind of transparent on the reasons I wouldn't take that game this weekend.
Yeah, and we're already so like late in the game, week 9. I mean, a lot of the pools that I'm in that I'm still alive in, there's over there's only around like 10, 15% left. You don't want to burn that on a cheeky entry when you're trying to go contrarian week 9 here. That wraps it up for us, Eric. I'm going to let you go. But before I do, as we always do, 2 quick questions for tonight's game. Unofficial prediction for tonight. Let's look at the spread -3, -101 over at Pinnacle for the Steelers. Do you like the Pittsburgh side or do you like the Tennessee side +3, -109?
I think Tennessee +3 is the way to go now. It's just hard. It's hard for me to envision. Winning by margin with respect to Kenny Pickett and company. If it, that's not really their jam. Their jam is to win when no one expects them or reasonably has a reason to expect them to win a game. So for that reason, I sort of like Tennessee here, play into the variance with one Will Levis.
All right, I love it. And then last question before I let you go here. First TD prediction for tonight.
Wow. Okay. I'm gonna go. I hope he's active for this one, but if he's somehow inactive because he's been so ineffective this year, it will void. Kind of like Allen Robinson, like 28-1. Look, you're not trying to hit these anyway. Well, you are trying to hit these, but I think you have to kind of have that reaction that you just had, Jason, was like, ugh, right? When you take some of these guys, and there are prices where you can get Robinson at a fairly solid hit if he were to catch a fade in the first possession or something.
Of course, and just looking at the board, there's even some shops that are like off market, 18-1, 14-1, and you have the 28-1 that you mentioned. Like just looking at the general market, it seems like an interesting play here. Eric, thank you so much for your time. You can find Eric Eager, VP of Sumer Sports, on this channel every Wednesday for our Best Bets Best Bets show. You can also find him every week on the Sumer Sports Show alongside Thomas Dimitrov. Eric, thank you so much for your time. We'll talk soon.
Jason, have a good one. Take care.
All right, see you, Eric. That was Eric Eager, VP of Sumer Sports, guys. Before I bring on our next guest in Hitman, two things I'm going to ask you guys. One, drop your plays in the chat, guys. Last couple weeks, we've done a great job with the chat interaction, going back and forth. You guys have been asking some great questions for our prop expert here for Hitman. So if you have any questions, if you have any props you're looking to play that you're kind of on the fence about, not sure what you're going to do, or if you already played them, drop them in the chat and hear what Hitman has to say about them. And before I bring Hitman on here, one more thing. Quick reminder, tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, you will catch Rob Pizzola live right here on this channel. That's right, not on the Hammer HQ YouTube channel, on the Forward Progress HQ YouTube channel for a live watch along of tonight's game. So if you're looking for a little bit of entertainment while you're watching the game, don't like to listen to the broadcast, then I think this is the perfect place for you. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button as well. It does us a big favor in the algorithm right here. So make sure you do those two things. And if you want to, again, watch that live watch along, it will be on this channel, not on the Hammer HQ channel. We're moving the watch alongs to this channel from here on out. So gonna bring in Hitman now. Hitman, how's it going?
Yo, it's going well. Got quite the game tonight.
I love it. I
don't got much. I'm gonna be honest with everybody. So
all right. Fair enough here. I just started laughing because when I brought you in, I don't get to see your little the little header underneath your name, and tonight's game sucks. And hey, I don't disagree with it. As Eric Eager always says, it is a privilege to watch these games. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts about the move that we kind of saw right before we hopped on the show. The Tennessee Titans and the Pittsburgh Steelers are lined at 2.5 at Pinnacle. Moved through that 3. Now it's at a -3, juice towards the +3 for the Tennessee Titans here. Did you kind of expect that early on in the week when you saw the lines open up here?
Pissed off. I strong leaned towards the Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
I did bet a little bit of 2.5 -110 a few days ago, and it was just a strong lean and I just never ended up betting more on it, to be honest. But that's the direction that I was looking at, and I agree with the move. I think that it's a tough ask for Will Levis to go on the road in Pittsburgh against this pass rush that now has Cameron Hayward back and be successful like he was last week. The jury's still up in the air with him. Yes, he had a bunch of splash plays last week, but he also had a very low success rate. And now that the league has some film on him, things are going to get a lot tougher. And the Titans do tend to struggle when their offensive line has to go up against these really good fronts, even when Tannehill was a quarterback.
Yeah, and I mean, it seems like it's going to be a big struggle, as we talked about with Eric Eager a lot earlier on in the show here. I'm curious how you handle a quarterback change like this, right? Like we saw the one game from Will Levis, but that's usually not enough here. And we're kind of seeing this around the league, where we're seeing guys who we've legit never seen before. We have like Tyson Bagent come up for the Chicago Bears a couple weeks ago. We have Jaron Hall this week for your Minnesota Vikings. How do you kind of attack these games from a props perspective here with so much uncertainty around these guys who are basically brand new to our eyes?
Yeah, I mean, it makes it can be harder on the bettor, but it could also be harder on the bookmaker because they don't have a good idea of how to price a lot of these guys either. But it leads to a lot more variance, to be honest. It makes your handicap very subjective. You're not gonna be able to put it into some type of model and be able to get a great answer. So, I mean, I like it. I'm more of a subjective bettor anyway, so I like it personally. And trying to handicap. All right, well now, and it just doesn't go to the quarterback either. It goes to all the other players because you have all this data with certain Titans pass catchers when Tannehill's the quarterback, and now it's like, all right, now throw that out the window because what does Will Levis like to do? Will Levis could like to throw to a certain position more than Tannehill, or Will Levis could lock in on his number one receiver more than a guy like Tannehill. So there's a lot to uncover when this happens.
Yeah. So, I mean, I always say uncertainty is always better for the better because we don't have to post all the lines. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
And I'll give you like one example even is Justin Fields and most mobile quarterbacks tend not to throw to running backs often. And Tyson Bagent, however, I'm just not going to learn how to say his name. I don't care. He'll be out of the league by next year, so I don't need to remember it. But he tends to throw the checkdowns a lot more. So like last week, like a lot of the running backs on the Bears were showing value on their over on receptions. So it's just little stuff like that.
Yeah, just complete uncertainty here. And like I said, obviously we don't have to make all the lines, so it's harder on the books because they don't really know what to look for. But hey, neither do we. It's like you said, subjective handicapping, just kind of looking to dart through here. We have a question from the chat already. We got Eric asking if you were the one behind that Will Levis under steam.
No. If I was going to bet Will Levis under, I would look towards completions anyway, rather than the yards. Because Will Levis has shown that he's just getting, I mean, at least through 1 week, very high average depth of target thrower right now. So, and his success rate was very low, which tends, if he's going to be a splash player like that, probably benefits the yards more than completion. So, no, I haven't bet anything with Will Levis. Haven't bet much at all, to be honest.
Fair enough here. I'm looking at the lines right now for the passing yards. It seems like there's a little bit of market discrepancy here. There's a 193.5, but market is around 200. 201.5 is best price you'll see. You can get a 201.5 minus 121 towards the under over at Pinnacle. And like you mentioned here for pass attempts are all the way up at 28.5 here. And like you said, guy who has a lower success rate, who's not really good at, like, from what we've seen only in one game, making those completions, and kind of more the big chunk play guy that might be a better lean here. How do you feel like I know you mentioned that we kind of have to throw the book out on these Titans receivers here, and this is kind of more of a subjective handicap. I asked the same thing to Eric Eager here. Who do you think benefits the most from Will Levis in the passing game for the Tennessee Titans here?
You know, it's tough because it's probably going to be a vertical shot like that one of these guys catches. I don't think that a lot of these receivers are going to benefit as far as like receptions and everything, but maybe like if I was to look at like a Titans guy, it would be like longest reception. Maybe I would look towards or something. Maybe Treylon Burks. He came back last week. His number is super low right now. It's like in the mid-20s. And he was on a snap share in his first game back, but now another game back. This was a first-round pick of theirs that did show some promise. So maybe Treylon Burks, and he theoretically is the guy that should be able to win vertical and down the field. So if I had to pick one that I would think would benefit, obviously, other than the Hopkins last week was the big beneficiary, it would be Treylon Burks. I can tell you a guy that I think doesn't benefit. If this is probably my only official play, Jason.
Let's hear it. Let's lock it in.
All right. So I'll give a caveat. I liked the receptions better There's still a 120 out there, but it's at one book. Most books are like 140-ish right now, and that's just a little thin. But I like Nikhil Westbrook-Elhini under 16.5 receiving yards. And I talked about how I think there could be a lot less volume for this team. I don't expect much success from the Titans pass game, to be honest, in this spot. And Westbrook-Elhini was in a 5-man rotation last week at receiver with Chris Moore, Kyle Phillips, Hopkins, and Treylon Burks. And, any boost to Treylon Burks' playing time is going to be a huge plus for us as far as it negatively impacting Elhini, because when the Titans go into 11 personnel, they're going with Hopkins, they're going with Kyle Phillips in the slot, and Treylon Burks was rotating a little bit with Moore and with Elhini. And Elhini and Moore were also rotating in some jumbo packages. But Elhini, only 13 routes last week on 31 pass attempts. Will Levis is at 27.5 pass attempts lined right now. I mean, we can look at a game, especially if Treylon Burks does get that little boost. We're looking at a game, he might only have 8 to 10 pass routes potentially in this game. So I like Elhini under. And to the people that say they found a rogue number on Elhini receptions, I like it to 130. So if you can get under 130, I would play the receptions. If you can't, let's pivot to 16.5 yards.
So the 1.5 receptions, I'm seeing I'm seeing like 2 or 3 books and that are all like widely available books listing that minus 120. I even see the 125. I see a 120 out there. So I feel like the 125.
Yep. Go with that. And if you are playing at books where the juice has gotten out of hand on the receptions, I would pivot to the yards, but we'll go with the receptions. That is my favorite play.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, though, just for transparency's sake, we're going to split the bet. We're going to do 50 on the under 1.5 receptions at minus 125 here. Then we're going to look towards the receiving yards. We're going to take a look, and it's 16.5 everywhere, minus 110. So we're going to split a unit. We're going to do 50 to win 50 on Nick Westbrook-Elhini under 16.5 receiving yards, minus 110. Then we're going to do under 1.5 receptions, minus 125 here. Locking that in. Reminder, you can find all the plays tracked. Forward Progress HQ. Head over to Betstamp, type in FWD Progress HQ. All the plays are tracked there. And may I mention, this Thursday show is keeping the account alive. Hey, man, you got to do some more work on those best bets, but maybe that's a talk for another.
I mean, does it help me? Anybody watching it, does it help me that we talked about Buffalo Cincinnati before the best bets were released? And I say, I like Buffalo Cincinnati over 48.5, but it's not best bet time. So I say that as I say it, the market blows up to 49.5. So when it becomes best bet time 5 minutes later, I have to give out 49.5. And I still liked it up to 50, but I'm just telling everyone at the Hammer, that game better not land 49, or you're gonna get a pissed off Hitman that comes in.
I'm already clipping this and posting this on Twitter, but it'll be even more funny when it does land on that 49. You have that Raz market effect going on here. So Hitman, you got to take that.
I don't know why on the Forward Progress bets. I don't know who the hell is listening to me and betting that up after I said that.
All right, well, let's get back on track here. Let's continue to look at this game. We talked a lot about the Titans side of the ball. Let's look towards the Pittsburgh Steelers, and let's look towards their offense here. One of the questions in the chat is this week the week that Pittsburgh finally realizes Jaylen Warren is the better running back? Personally, I have no idea. I don't think there ever will be a week. I think they're going to sunk cost their way and just ride Najee Harris for as long as possible. But what are your thoughts on Jaylen Warren versus Najee Harris?
No,
do you like anything?
It's not the week. It's not the week. It's going to be the same situation that Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard were last year. I don't think we're going to get to a point where they go away from Harris. I think that Warren's going to have a similar role the entire season, to be honest. So yeah, just think back to that split last year where everybody's saying what about the Pollard Elliott stuff. That's what I think Pittsburgh's doing.
Yeah, and it's also like neither guy I think is as good as the other guys you're mentioning there either. So it's like not really that big of an impact there. And if we look at snap shares, you can see like throughout the year, it's been like basically 55 to 60% for Najee Harris and 40 40 to 45 for Jaylen Warren here. In the prop side of things, though, do you like Jaylen Warren feels like it's lined pretty high for rushing and receiving 48.5. Is that something that would like tempt you to like look towards an under, or you just like, I know you're saying a lot of stuff, staying off of a lot of stuff for this game. Like for either of these guys, are you looking towards any of their unders with how good this Tennessee Titans team has been against the run?
Yeah, I mean, I considered Najee Harris under because it's probably going to be an inefficient game from him. But at the same time, you have to ask yourself, like, when you're betting unders, you have to ask yourself, like, what are my outs? Like, are my outs that an injury can happen, which is always obviously a factor? Or like, is it ineffectiveness? Is it timeshare? Could another player take some snaps? Is it the matchup? And for this, I think that an out on Harris is the matchup and everything, but I think that the volume's going to be there because I just don't anticipate the Titans ever getting to a point where they can take Pittsburgh out of their offense, because I'm not anticipating a lot of success for the Titans offense. I think that it's one of those games Harris is probably going to get those 14 carries for 3.5 yards a pop, and it makes his rush number very interesting. So I leaned towards the under on Harris, but I ended up not firing on it.
All right, fair enough here. I was leaning towards a couple unders here. Same thing for me, but I'm not the expert. You are. Question in the chat from RW fan 23. If you, this is more of like a philosophical question here, Hitman, but if you could only bet one thing for the rest of your life, what would it be? Player props or sides and totals?
It would be player props, and it wouldn't even be a question. The big thing with player props is when you're doing this, like to really, really start making some money and everything, getting down becomes the problem on the player props. Whereas like a side and total, I could go to some of the market making books. Pinnacle, great one, taking great limits on NFL sides, not limiting players. I could go to Pinnacle and some other shops, and I could get my fill easily on sides and totals. And it's not as much work getting down. Player props, it's a lot of work getting down. So it makes it a lot more difficult. But the reason that is because sides and totals, my edge is significantly smaller than it is on player props. Like I'll put it like this, like when I'm betting NFL sides and totals, when I come into the season for regular season NFL sides and totals, I believe that I'm going to win. I think that there's a better than 53% chance that I'm going to win. When it comes to player props, like I know that I'm going to win on player props. So, and I could easily lose for the year on sides and totals. Player props, I'm not going to lose when I have as many outs as I have and everything like that. So if you're looking to attack one thing, and especially if you're a smaller bettor, look to attack the player props, especially if you're looking to bet hundreds of dollars instead of, if you're looking to bet tens of thousands, then look at the sides and totals, but focus on props.
All right. A couple wise words here from Hitman here. All right, Hitman, I'll let you go. But a couple things before we get out of here. Any best bets, not for just for tonight's game, but maybe for Sunday? I see you're wearing a Vegas Golden Knights shirt here. Maybe an NHL bet. We've seen you give out an NCAA college football bet. We've seen you giving out some regular season win totals here on the network. Do you have anything you like other than tonight's game, or is that it for you for best bets for tonight?
Let me go look at the portfolio right now to see if I can see anything.
No pressure to give anything out here, obviously, if you don't want to.
This was a release from another service. So the line, I mean, we're getting a little bit of the worst of it right now, but I still think it has some value. If you can find Alexander Madison rush yards in the mid 40s, I think that is worth a play.
Okay.
Madison, it's a tough matchup against a really underrated Falcons run defense. Cam Akers is starting to get a lot more snaps. The team has said they're going to ride the hot hand. Madison's coming off a game where he had 17 touches for 33 yards. So with Minnesota giving those, we're going to ride the hot hand comments, and Madison's coming off just such an ineffective game. We talk about unders. You got to have a lot of outs. He could be ineffective. the game script could get away from him with the Falcons being 4-point favorites. Cam Akers could get a lot more snaps, and he could have the hot hand. So I think there's some outs on the Alexander Madison unders this week.
44.5 minus 120 is what I see. There's actually a 46.5 minus 110. There's only one available. It's at a sportsbook that I think accepts relatively higher limits on props here. But are you good with that 44.5 under minus 120 here for Alexander Madison?
Yep.
All right, let's lock that in here. And then last two things before you get out of here, Hitman, before I let you go. Unofficial prediction for tonight's game. Pittsburgh right now, -3, -101 over at Pinnacle. Tennessee +3, -109. Who do you like for this game?
If
Unofficial
I got
prediction.
2.5, I'd be all on Pittsburgh. So
yeah,
at 3, I lean towards Pittsburgh. If you're in contests and pools, a lot of them are like these half-point ones and even like Circa and Westgate, I think, have their contests, and it's 2.5 in the contest. So I like the Steelers at anything at the 2.5 numbers. And you said what unofficial first touchdown score, which
first
I'm like 0-8
scorer,
on this
anytime
year.
Whatever you want.
Oh man, what is the no touchdown score?
That's what I was thinking.
Is there an option in that or no?
There is an option. Let me just pull up some other books here for a second. I was thinking about that. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I think if we're ever gonna take one of these for one of these games, it'd be tonight. Let me see if I can pull that up quickly, or if anyone in the chat has looked at it or bet it. No touchdown score here. I can't find it right now on Pinnacle. Right. Might have to shop around a bit for it, but
let's go. We'll go. I'm gonna get square. We'll go Deontay Johnson. Hasn't scored a touchdown in a year and a half, despite having such a great target share. Deontay Johnson against the pass funnel Tennessee Titans.
All right, beautiful. Gun to your head. Don't bet that, guys. Just a little fun for you. If you want to sprinkle any pizza money, it's like it. Anyways,
and I like Holt. Big game for the Titans. Regular season win total under 7.5. That play was so good that we gave out under 7.5, and the Titans won against Atlanta, and it's still 6.5 right now, juiced over. Can't do much better than that. So let's hope that we get a Titans L tonight.
We're hoping for a Titans L right now to prop up the after all the damage you've done on the Wednesday show. But I'm just playing around here. Hey, man, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
All right. We'll talk soon. That was Hitman Pro Sports Bettor. You can catch him here every Wednesday for our Best Bets show. And guys, if you haven't checked out our Wednesday Best Bet show and you're looking for some bets for the weekend, make sure you do, guys, because we're constantly getting some good CLV. They might not win, but we're getting CLV. That's half the battle right there. So that will be it for us today, guys. Thank you so much for everyone who's tuned in, all 70 of you who've watched consistently from the start to the finish. I appreciate you. I see you. And everyone watching after the fact, if you don't mind, just hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It does it does a lot for us over here on the channel, and it really helps us out. And if you're watching after the fact, drop a comment for your prediction for tonight's game. Before I head out, though, one more thing. Tomorrow live at 2 p.m. Eastern on this very channel, I will be back live alongside Matthew Freeman from the Fantasy Life, John Legeza from The Athletic, and Jack Miller from Establish the Run. We're talking player props. We're talking injury fallouts from the practice reports. You don't want to miss this show if you're looking to bet player props, guys. So make sure you're tuning in. We give out our 6 best player props for the week for the Sunday football games. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And one more reminder, if you didn't catch it already on the top of the show or halfway through the show, the live watch along with Rob Pizzola will be on the Forward Progress HQ YouTube channel. So if you're watching those watch alongs before, make sure you head over to this channel to watch them. They're not going to be on the Hammer HQ anymore. They're going to be on the Forward Progress HQ channel moving forward. If you like football, this is the channel for you. So guys, thanks so much for tuning in. For myself, for Eric Eager, for the Hitman, this has been Forward Progress, powered by Pinnacle on the Hammer Betting Network. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll catch you guys later.